You guys already know we cover tons of free-to-play games on this channel, but today we are going a bit more premium. So in this video, I'm going to bring you 15 of the best and the most unique first-person shooter games you can play right now in 2026. These are all going to be paid titles, no free-to-play games. But if you're expecting the most popular games like Call of Duty, Rainbow Six Siege, Overwatch or Battlefield, you won't find it here. Today we're going to only talk about hidden gems, underrated shooters with incredible reviews on Steam, and also some seriously unique experiences that most people are completely sleep upon. So if you're tired of playing the same old Battlefield, Call of Duty over and over again, want something fresh, trust me, you're gonna find at least few bangers on this list. So without wasting any more time, let's jump straight into it. Alright, starting with a brand new first-person shooter that is literally came out few days ago, and that is John Carpenter's Toxic Commando. This one is a brand new co-op zombie shooter where you and up to 3 of your friends drop into these massive open maps, complete objectives, and just mow down hordes of zombies. This game is obviously coming from the same developers of World War C, so you got the same energy, same DNA. So the gameplay feel a lot like World War C, a mix with a bit of Left 4 Dead, but with vehicles, classes, and some crazy over-the-top moments throws in. You got different roles like medic, defender, and more, and each comes with a unique set of abilities. But honestly, the real fun comes from just sticking around with your friends and blasting everything in your sight. Obviously, the game is clearly built for co-op play, that's where it's most shine. But you can play solo, but it's not the best experience since the bots aren't really reliable. But keeping that aside, the gameplay looks incredible. It's so much fun to play, but it can get a bit repetitive over time since there aren't a lot of missions at the moment, and the progression is a bit more grind focus. And as I said before, the game literally came out few days ago on Steam, but right now it's sitting on very positive reviews. So if you love zombie shooters, games like World War C, and looking for something fresh to jump in, it's a pretty cool option on the market. Number 2, we got Witchfire. This one is a really unique mix of genres and honestly feel like a completely different game from your typical first-person shooters. It's a dark fantasy shooter where you play as this sinner turned witch hunter, going on this risky run into dangerous areas, fighting enemies, collecting loots, and then deciding whether to extract or push your luck for better loot. So ultimately it's an extraction shooter, but what makes it stand out is the mix of roguelike and Souls-like element, so the game can be pretty challenging and punishing if you're not careful. And this is also a single player only experience, so there is no multiplayer, no co-op. It's all about your own skills, build, and how you learn the game. There is a huge replayability value in this game because each run feels different with different weapons, spells, and upgrades. Plus the gunplay can be incredibly satisfying. So overall, if you want something fresh, challenging, and bit different from your usual first-person shooter formula, this is definitely one to keep your eye on. Our next game is for the fans of hardcore tactical military style first-person shooters, and this game is called Incursion Red River. It is a PvE extraction shooter set in the modern day Vietnam conflict where you go out on missions, complete objectives, loot gear, and try to extract without losing everything. The gameplay is obviously much more slower, more methodical and tactical, and also got incredibly satisfying gunplay. But what makes this different compared to a well-established extraction shooter something like Escape from Tarkov is that this game does not have any PvP element, which means you won't find any other real players in the wild. So the game supports solo play and also co-op play up to 4 players, so you can jump in with your friends, take your time, play it slow. So even though technically you are playing against bot, you still have to plan your loadout, move carefully, and think before every gunfight, because as I said, it's super hardcore. Only couple of bullets will enough to take you down and wipe your run instantly. The game is available on Steam Early Access right now. It's sitting on mostly positive reviews. So if you're into tactical shooters, especially extraction shooters, but looking for a bit more slower and much more less stressful experience, this is a great option to jump in with your friends. At number 4, we got Selaco, one of my favorite games from this list, and this one is an absolute love letter to that old school shooters which I'm a big fan of. It's a fast-paced, single-player focused title that takes heavy inspiration from games like Doom, Fear, and Half-Life, so expect that really punchy gunplay, smart enemies, and super interactive environment. In fact, it's fully destructible, where everything can just explode and breaks apart. The AI is actually pretty impressive too in this game. They can flank you, push you, and react to what you're doing, which makes every gunfight a bit more intense. Story-wise, there's a proper single-player campaign here. You play as a security officer in this massive space station after Earthfall. Try to uncover what's going on while everything goes completely out of control. But it's not like your typical Call of Duty campaign that is full of cutscenes and cinematic moments. This one is much more gameplay focused. And as I said before, there is no multiplayer or co-op in this game, but still a good replayability value, things like different builds, secrets, and even extra mods planned. As of reviews, right now the game is sitting on very positive reviews with around 90+% positive rating. So overall guys, if you're into classic style shooters but want something a bit more modern and polished, this one is easily one of the best picks right now. Moving on, next up we got GTFO. This one is an extremely hardcore co-op horror shooter that is honestly brutal in the best way possible. You and up to 3 other players can drop into this underground dark facility trying to complete objectives while managing super limited resources like ammo and tools. But do not think of this like your typical Call of Duty zombie with your friends. This game can be extremely punishing, so you have to spend a lot of time sneaking, coordinating and planning, because one simple mistake can wake the whole room of enemies and completely ruin your run. There is a story, but it's pretty minimal and told you through terminals and environmental stuff. You're basically prisoners being sent down by this mysterious entity called the Wardens, and each mission, each run push you deeper down into this underground complex. This one is heavily focused on co-op gameplay. You can play with up to 4 of your friends, and I'll be real, this one is not meant to play as solo. Of course you can play with bots, but the whole experience is built around teamwork, communication and proper coordination. The game is actually a few years old at this point and also a bit underrated in my opinion, but those of you who played know how good this game is. So if you got a dedicated group of friends who are into challenging tactical shooters, this can be easily one of the most intense co-op experiences out there right now. Out of Action is a pretty cool mix of fast-paced movement and over-the-top gunplay with a bit of a flair. This one is a multiplayer-focused title that's set in a gritty cyberpunk world inspired by 90s anime, where movement and build make you insanely powerful. There is a skill-based movement system, deep customization, and even an offline mode if you want to Patrikios solo or mess around with your build before jumping online. The single-player offline mode gives you something to do if you want to grind builds without the pressure of PvP, but the real focus, of course, on the multiplayer side. For a long time ago, there was a playable demo available for this one. I remember playing and covering this game before, and it is incredibly satisfying to play once you get the hang of it. Right now, the Steam reviews are sitting on very positive overall. So if you're looking for a unique shooter game with movement, customization, and player skill matter more than anything, this one is a great indie shooter to try out right now. Alright, moving on to another awesome game that is completely different from pretty much all the games on our list today, and that is Fallen Aces. This one is basically an indie noir style first-person shooter that feels like stepping into a gritty comic book. In this game, you play through a crime story full of villains, goons, and shady back alley shootouts with the style and vibe that's very 90s style action comic. All the levels are beautifully hand-drawn and there is actual context behind your mission, so it's not just about blasting enemies, you're following a proper story here, and the gameplay blends shooting with melee, stealth, and even more improvised weapon options like bats and pipes, make it very unique compared to a typical shooter campaign. And obviously there is no multiplayer or co-op here, it is strictly single player, but the storytelling and the style make it feel like a standalone experience rather than a series of disconnected levels. At the moment, the game is sitting on overwhelmingly positive reviews on Steam with thousands of players backing it up, so if you're in the mood for something story driven with strong visual identity and classic FPS action, Fallen Aces is a really cool indie shooter to jump in right now. Up next we got MULLET MADJACK, an awesome single player first person shooter that combined raw-like elements with high octane action. And it's got that unique 90s style retro aesthetic combining with some modern day gameplay elements, and let me tell you, it's so much fun to play. The missions are super fast, frantic, you pick your weapon, rush forward and blast enemies while try to climb floors and beat your own best time. And each level you have like few seconds to beat, but every time you kill an enemy or interact with the environment, it adds a few seconds to your time. There is a bit of a backstory, but honestly it's not story heavy, but the gameplay loop is incredibly fun to play. It's almost feel like you're staring at your own animated action show, which is crazy. And no doubt at the moment the game is sitting on overwhelmingly positive reviews on Steam. Plus there is also a free playable demo available on Steam, which is always great to see. Deep Rock Galactic is one of those rare shooters that pretty much everyone loves, and for a very good reason. You play as badass space drovers going in on procedurally generated caves to mine resources, fight alien monsters, and complete objectives, all with destructible terrain that makes every mission super dynamic. There is a light story, but the real highlight is obviously the co-op gameplay. Up to 4 players working together, each with unique classes like Scout, Driller, Engineer, and Gunner. Solo play is also totally possible with bots, but it's always best to jump in with a couple of your friends. It's a bit of an older game right now, sitting on very positive reviews. It's got a very simple looking art style. Because of that, you don't really have to have a super high-end PC to play this. As long as you have a dedicated graphics card, you're pretty much good to go. At number 10, we got ULTRAKILL, incredibly fun, high-octane, fast-paced shooter that feels like a love letter to old-school boomer shooters. It's a bit of a blend between something like Doom, Quake, and all the other 90s style shooters, but everything cranks up to 11. There isn't much of a story. The gameplay is all about blasting through levels, mastering weapons, and perfecting your run while staying alive. It is strictly single player, but there is a huge replayability value because the game isn't about slow progression. It's about mastering your skill and pushing your limit. And at the moment, the game is sitting on overwhelmingly positive reviews on Steam. So if you like shooter games that is fast, loud, and totally relentless, ULTRAKILL still one of the best picks out there even after all these years. Moving on to number 11, we got Trapang 2. So if you ever played games like Fear, this one is basically that energy brought back in a more modern way. It's a faster paced single player first person shooter where you're sliding around, slowing down time, going invisible, and just absolutely destroying enemies in the most chaotic way possible. The gunplay is super punchy and aggressive, and the whole game is built around making you feel like an unstoppable weapon. There's a bit of a backstory in the game where you wake up in this underground facility with no memory, and the story unfolds as you complete missions, but it's more of a backdrop to keep things moving between missions. But the campaign is pretty short. That's one of the complaints that a lot of people have. And also it's single player only. There is no multiplayer, no co-op, but the replayability value comes from the combat arenas and just mastering the mechanics. At the moment, the Steam reviews are sitting on very positive, and a lot of people loving the insane action and satisfying gunplay. So if you want to just jump into a pure first person shoot action with no downtime, this one is absolutely delivered. Moving on, next up we got Echo Point Nova. This one is a bit more under the radar, but it's actually really interesting. It's a fast-paced, movement-based first-person shooter set in this massive open sci-fi world where you're constantly zipping around with grappling hooks, vehicles, and crazy mobility that's taking enemies down. And the game gives you that sandbox-style vibe where you can approach, fight however you want, and mastering the movement and the combat system can be extremely satisfying. The game isn't heavy on the story side, but it's more about exploration and the gameplay freedom. The game gives you the option to play as a solo, or you can play with your friends in co-op, which is a big plus because messing around this open world can be extremely fun. Steam reviews are sitting on overwhelmingly positive at the moment, and a lot of people praising its movement and its freedom, although sometimes it can feel a bit light on content depending on how much you play. And almost forgot to mention there is a free playable demo available right now, so just go ahead and try it out. If you're in the market for a shooter game that is all about style and speed, next up we got I Am Your Beast. It's a single player first person shooter where every level feels like quick intense hit. You jump in, take out enemies as fast as possible, and try to do it cleaner and faster each time. It kinda got that, the speedrun focused design where replaying each level is actually part of the fun. The story is there, but it's pretty minimal, and you're basically playing as a high skill operator taking down enemies in these tight control scenarios, and the focus is 100% on the gameplay and the efficiency. It got a very easygoing art style which I really like, but the gunplay isn't as strong as some of the other games on our list today. There is no multiplayer or co-op here, it's pure single player. Steam reviews are very positive at the moment, although it might not be for everyone if you prefer more longer story driven experiences. Number 14, we got Grey Zone Warfare, and this is for the fans of super hardcore serious tactical shooters. And to be honest, this one gotta be the most insane looking realistic first person shooter game that I've seen in a while. Visually, the game looks incredible. It's a tactical extraction shooter set in this massive open world jungle where you take on missions, loot gear, and try to survive while dealing with both AI soldiers and also other players depending on the mod. It's very slow, realistic, tactical, and heavy focus on immersion. There isn't a traditional story campaign here, it's more about faction-based missions and building your character over time. You can play solo, co-op, or multiplayer. It supports both PvP, PvE, which gives you a lot of variety, but also means it can be pretty intense and unforgiving. The game is right now available on Steam Early Access, and reviews are sitting on mostly positive to mixed, mainly because of some of the performance issues and early access problems. I do have the game, and it looks incredible if you can crank up the graphics, and also holding on to a steady, healthy play count. And I feel like this is one of those games that have so much potential going forward, so definitely try it out. Alright, moving on to our final game on the list today, it's called Mycopunk. This one is one of the most unique picks for this list today. It's a co-op first-person shooter with a weird sci-fi twist where you're basically fighting off fungal alien threats in this colorful, slightly chaotic world. The game got a really distinct art style, make it really stand out among the others. Gameplay wise, it's more on the fun and chaotic side rather than super tactical. So you're shooting, using abilities and working together to clear out enemies in these missions. It's lean heavily into the co-op side, so it's best to play with friends, although solo play might still be possible depending on how it's balanced. It's still a very new game on Steam. Right now it's sitting on early access and overall Steam reviews are sitting on 85%, very positive. Well, there you have it guys. These are my pick on the 15 awesome first-person shooter games you can jump in right now in 2026. No usual picks, no free-to-play stuff, just solid paid shooters that are actually worth checking out. And with the Steam Spring Sale coming up in a few days time, it is honestly the perfect time to grab some of these games at a huge discount. So definitely wait a couple of days. And also there is an awesome first-person shooter that is completely free right now on Epic Games Store, and that is Izonzo, a World War I tactical shooter. So if you still haven't claimed the game yet, make sure to add it to your Epic Games library. It is completely free right now. So as always, if you enjoy the video guys, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe and stay tuned for more content like this. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you guys in the next one.